Hi everyone, this is Warm and Cozy Quilting with Debbie this morning. Are you not used to seeing me? I usually am behind the scenes or across the street, but today I'm on video. So I'm going to show you how to machine bind a quilt. I did a video once before on binding and we did hand binding, but this time I have a lot of people who've asked how do you do the machine binding, and so that's our plan for today. But before we get started, I want to say hello to a few people.
You want to tell them who we are?
We're Warm and Cozy Quilting in Columbia, Illinois.
I'm gonna pop on for a second. Hi, it's just Mom and me today, Debbie and Sarah, joining you for this video. Danielle and Jason took the day off, so you get to sit with us today as we drink our coffee and talk about machine binding. We are Warm and Cozy Quilting. We are located in Columbia, Illinois, about 15 minutes away from St. Louis, so St. Louis metropolitan area. And you can go ahead and start your hellos, and I'll go back to being the keyboard.
Okay, well, I've just got my phone. I don't have a fancy tablet, so good morning, Christy. Good morning, Lisa. Good morning, Donna. Good morning, Cindy and Connie and Dorothy and Donna Rector. So hopefully we'll have a few more people pop on before we get into this. So now what do I say?
Pam said, good to see some new faces, but she misses the regulars.
Yeah.
Those are some large shoes to fill.
That's for sure.
So we also miss Danielle and Jason today, but I hope that this is still fun and informative for you.
That's what we're hoping for.
Okay. Well, just to give you like a rundown of the things that are going on here at the shop. On Monday, we have our flash sale. This week, it's going to be backings.
Oh, boy.
So we got your back.
That's right. Monday will be a good day to stock up on backings for those projects you've got started.
Yeah. So I'm going to give you a little bit of homework. If you have a quilt that you know you need a backing for, go ahead and get your sizing and try to figure out how much yardage you need now, so that when everything's on sale, you're ready to go and you can go in there and get that backing before somebody else steals it. Also, on our Monday live sale, we work from a live inventory. So if somebody else buys it, it takes it out automatically. So I would set your alarms, be there at 9 a.m. so that you have the largest selection. Because a lot of those bolts only have like 12 yards on them. So if 3 people need 3 yards, then it's basically gone.
Okay. And we have a lot of pretty backs.
Yes, we do.
So that'll be fun.
Yeah. And then Wednesday, we have our regular live sale. That starts at 5 o'clock Central Time. That is with our regular Danielle and Jason.
Yes, and they'll be much more entertaining because I don't tell good jokes.
Yeah, we don't write jokes. But yeah, don't know yet what that will be. But this weekend, over this week, we got 13 boxes of fabric. We have lots and lots of new stuff, and I'm sure some of it will show up on our Wednesday sale.
Yeah, we'll have to decide what we can show. We may have to save some for later, and then again, we may get more fabric today or Tuesday or whatever. So we'll have good stuff for the next couple of weeks, new stuff.
Yes. And as always, you can come and visit us in the shop. We love to see your faces.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, and yes, today is Lydia's birthday. So you all are familiar with the girls. I'm sure that we will pass all of those happy birthday messages on to Lydia.
Yes.
And yes, people are missing our fabric unboxing videos. We should definitely do some of those.
Yeah, that's always fun, especially with the girls, because they get so excited.
It's so cute. All right, I think we're ready to go ahead and get started.
Okay.
Where are we starting today, Mom?
Well, first of all, in order to do binding, we have to cut the binding. So I brought over a scrap piece of material that I found out in our scrap bucket. I don't want to walk out of the range of the camera. But anyway, it's a little bit bigger than 2.5 inches. That's what I cut my binding at, is 2.5 inches. So I'm going to fold it. I'm using the mini stripology ruler, so I'm having to fold it kind of small because there's not a whole lot of space there. I'm cutting it 2.5.
Sherry Jo said, "You two give great tips and good advice, and look forward to seeing and learning from you."
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Sherry.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm starting at 0, getting a clean cut, and then I'm going to 2.5, and now I have a 2.5-inch strip. The way that I calculate how many strips I'm going to need for a quilt is I measure how long it is, measure how wide it is, do length twice and width twice, so I have all 4 sides, add them all together, divide by 40 because your fabric is 40 inches long, and that tells you how many cuts you're going to need. So this particular one only needed 4 cuts, but so I've already got some of it started. I wanted to be able to show you the highlights rather than the entire process.
It's like the baking show. We've already pre-baked some of
That's right. It's already been in the oven.
Cindy asked a great question. Do you always use 2.5-inch binding?
I use 2.5, I use 2.25, and I use 3. I use 3-inch binding when it's flannel or fleece or something that's heavy, because I need to have enough room to turn it under. I use 2.25 when I want the small one that's just going to finish it off and not accent so much. But the majority of the time, I use 2.5. I have my machine, my little devices all set up for 2.5, and it just goes more smoothly that way for me. But so you can use it you can go any way. All right, so now I have my 2.5-inch strip. I've cut it in half to show you how to use the miter tool. Actually, it's called a binding tool. This is what it is. Now, I have a piece of tape on here, and I'll show you later why. But right now, I'm reading the words on here, and I know that that's the top. You don't want to flip it over. You want to always have where you're reading the words in the top. You line it up, and what this does is it gives you your 1/4-inch seam and then a 45 diagonal. And you do both sides.
You're cutting a little behind the machine. If you could just scoot.
Here.
There you go.
So see, I've come away from my selvage, and it's coming in 1/4 inch, and then on the 45. Then you have this little indentation here. Okay, now I'm going to show you how I sew those together. So
We're going to be moving the camera a little bit today, so just a warning.
So basically I want this to go together like this,
Okay.
but I have to have a 1/4 inch seam. That's why those two little places,
Oh, the little notches at
Yeah.
the top and bottom?
and now I'm going to line it up like that, and I'm going to sew from this notch over to this corner.
Okay.
And I have my 1/4 inch foot on my machine, so once I get started, it will guide me. And there we go. And this machine has a thread cutter, so I'm going to take advantage of that. But see how it went from this corner over to this corner.
Yes.
And so the next thing to do is to open it up. Once you've got them all together in a long line, I'm going to open it up and I'm going to press it.
So Lisa said that she always cuts her binding on the bias. So can you talk a little bit about why you might choose bias binding over straight cut binding?
I will. If you're,
Is your iron on?
it's supposed to be on, it says set.
Okay. I just thought I'd start there.
Yeah. If you're making mitered corners and your sides are straight, then you can use a straight binding. If you have rounded corners or scalloped edges, then you need to use bias binding because it will give. See, this doesn't give. It won't go around corners. So I use the straight most of the time. And either way, after I've sewn my pieces together, it's the same technique.
Sure.
I open them. No, this is not on. Okay, well, that's okay. I open up my seams like that, and then I fold the whole thing in half and iron the whole thing so that I have it folded over the whole length. It used to be, when I first started quilting, I had an industrial sewing machine that had a binding foot, and it folded the fabric and sewed a seam that went through the top and the back very evenly, and it was really nice. It's an industrial thing, you know. They don't make those to fit these machines. They only make those to fit industrial machines. So, but with that technique, you had to use bias binding because it fed through the foot and was bending over, and it needed to be flexible.
Sure.
But with this technique, you don't have to have the bias binding. Straight binding takes less fabric, and it's easier to deal with. So it's really whatever your comfort zone is. Now, I've already started. Here's my project. I'll show you that. And this is a new panel that we got in not too long ago.
Here, let me help you. I'll show it back there.
Okay.
You can stay where you are.
Okay.
Here's the project. It's so cute. We have some kits available if you love this and you need it in your life. We just got it quilted, and Mom has already started putting some of the binding on. Here you go.
And it might have been smarter to use something besides black. Black's kind of hard to see on the video, but I think you'll get the gist when we're going on the top. So anyway, now that I'm ready to put the binding on, I'm going to change my foot.
You probably couldn't see anything I did. I forgot to move the camera. Anyway. We are a two-man crew today, so bear with us a little bit.
Martelli, which sells this table and this mat and our rotary cutters, also has this binding attachment. And this is actually called a stitch in the ditch foot. It comes with four of these, what they call fences. And they've got a little number on them, 1 through 4. 1 is the narrowest, and then they step up to where 4 is the highest. So if you were doing something with flannel or fleece that's thick, you're going to need the number 4. I usually stick with the number 3 because that works well with cotton and no matter what I'm doing. This has markings on it.
Hard to see.
And you're not going to be able to see it.
Can you maybe put your hand behind it?
No.
Yeah, that doesn't help. Okay.
So, since I'm using 2.5-inch binding, I set this a scant 3/8 of an inch. That's just going to be the seam allowance that I'm going to have, top and bottom.
Okay.
So I'm going to put this on and screw it down tight. Now, this foot also comes with several different size adapters, so they'll work with any sewing machine. It just so happens that this works well with this
The Eversewn.
Eversewn machine.
Yeah, the Eversewns are really nice. I mean, you and Danielle both sew on Eversewns all day, every day.
Yes. And I remember yesterday we had trouble getting this one to grab.
We did. While she's fighting the machine. How are you guys doing on your SPP? Our friends who are Stash Pop High friends. The month is, ticking along. How are your flying geese coming? What's your favorite flying geese method? Let me know.
Okay, I got it set. So now I'm taking the quilt with my binding and I'm going to put it underneath the presser foot and run it. Where is it? In here. So run it up against this fence.
Okay, I'm going to zoom in.
I'm going to move my coffee.
Okay, that sounds like a good plan.
It's right under my elbow.
So we're giving you the over the shoulder view here. All right.
Yep. It's just to mark how far I needed to go. Okay. So then once you have that fence, that fabric up against that fence, you're going to maintain that little bit less than 3/8 of an inch. Now I'm going to do something else with my machine. The normal setting for the needle positioner is at 3.5. I'm going to take it to 4.5. That moves my needle over this way, just a little bit less than 1/8 of an inch. And that's how I'm going to put this on. And this is the back of the quilt. And you'll see why when we get to putting it together. Then I just sew. Since that is matching it up, I can kind of speed it up a little bit because I'm just doing a straight seam.
Mom is a fast sewer. She's been doing this.
Yep.
Something like that?
Yep.
But absolutely, take your time and go slow if you're not a lead
Yeah,
foot.
you don't have to go as fast as I go. Now, there is a little mark here on this that tells you when you get to be 1/4 of an inch away from the needle. So I'm kind of keeping an eye on that, and I'm going to keep an eye on the end of my fabric, my quilt. So now I'm getting kind of close. Okay, that's 1/4 of an inch. Now I'm going to lift the lever, the presser foot. I'm going to pull this out. I'm going to take the fabric and go up, fold it up, make a 90-degree fold, then fold it back down so it's parallel with the quilt.
And that's going to be how you miter that corner.
Exactly. And my foot came off.
Yes, we do have this foot.
Yeah, it comes in a set with all the different tanks for your different kinds of machines, and all 4 of these, and it's $24.95, and it's on our website. It's called a stitch and a ditch foot.
I'm going to drop a link into the chat.
Okay. And I gotta sew with my tongue sticking out. One of those.
Your face isn't on camera right now.
Okay,
So
good.
you're telling your secrets on yourself. And so this foot is helpful in the way that a 1/4 inch foot is. It has that ledge on the inside that helps you line everything up.
Right, but you can. It's adjustable, so you can play with it. So if you had 2 1/4 inch binding, you would move it in further. If you had 3-inch binding, you would move it out further. And so you'd have to kind of play with it a little bit to see where the stitches end up for you. Practice is the best way. But if you use the 2 1/2 like I do, if you go just a little bit scant on the 3/8, you'll be fine.
So a good thing to practice is if you make a wall hanging or a small panel.
For a placemat,
Yeah,
is great. You can make 4 placemats, and if you practice doing this binding on 4 placemats, by the time you get to the 4th one, you'll have it figured out.
So Tammy asked, do you back stitch at the corner?
No, because you're going to be sewing over it in the opposite direction. So there's the 45-degree up, and then come straight down. And the foot came off again. Of course. So, I don't normally have this much trouble.
Yeah, for whatever reason, on this particular machine, it hasn't wanted to grab hold of this foot. But Mom uses this foot on this same model machine across the street all the time.
Give it a little something underneath it if it'll.
Bella asked if you still have to hand stitch it down.
No, you do not, and I'm going to show you that in just a minute.
You absolutely can.
You can, yes. You can use this to hand stitch it down, but you don't have to. That's the beauty of it. Okay. So I'm getting back to where I started, and I'm going to show you how to join the 2 ends together. This one, and I've gone far enough. So I'm going to back stitch right here. Just a couple of stitches in each direction. And then cut my thread. And then I need an ink pen. Do we have one of those?
I'm sure I can find one. Here's an ink pen.
Thank you. A Warm and Cozy ink pen, even.
You know, branding is so important.
Okay, I'm opening this up. I'm opening up the other end that I started with. And what I'm going to do is make a line right where that ends.
And on black, it may be tough, so.
It's really, it shows up pretty good on the black.
Okay.
I could have got a white marker, but anyway, can you see that?
No.
Okay.
We're going to have to trust you.
All right, that's fine.
I can see it in person, but it's not showing up.
Okay, so now is when my tape comes in handy.
Okay.
This is just painter's tape. It's taped on here 1/4 of an inch away from the edge. I mean, 1/2 of an inch.
1/2 an inch.
Because you want to cut this 1/2 inch bigger so you have 1/4 inch on each end.
Sure.
So you have your 1/4 inch seam. So I'm going to take this.
This is also, we showed that glow tape. This would be a good use of the glow tape. We are currently out of stock, but we're going to have some more coming in. Peggy asked, will that work on a Destiny 2?
Yeah, I believe, yes, it should. It comes with like 4 or 5 different foot extensions that will fit on your machine. So that'll go with a low shank, a high shank, a medium shank. So you should be able to get it on your Destiny. Okay. Now that I have these 2 ends cut, I'm going to
hold that up a little higher, please.
I'm going to put these together just like we did in the beginning.
Can you? Yes, beautiful. Thank you. So make sure your notches line up.
Right, and then do a 1/4 inch seam.
So you want to leave yourself enough room to be able to tug the fabric around.
Yes.
And get it under your machine.
Now you could change feet. I just usually go with the same foot. Do about a 1/4 inch in. And then pull it taut. And sew with your same foot, same place.
This is a workout.
Yeah.
Especially if you have like a king size. You can skip arm day that day.
I don't know why it's giving me so much trouble. It doesn't normally give me trouble. So
it's because it's a live video and we have an audience.
Exactly. People are watching me. Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and sew from there to where I sewed in the beginning, close that seam up. Now, if you were going to hand sew this down, you would put the binding on the top so your hand stitching would be to the back. But since we're going to machine bind it down, I'm going to machine bind on the top. So now I've made the circle. I can backstitch if I want. You don't really have to because I've overlapped from where I started. And then cut your thread.
Okay, one thing we've talked about before is how do you avoid having to join it or having a joined piece end up in the corner?
Where you if you start it away from the corner far enough,
Yeah.
then it will join up out of the corner.
Okay.
Now, occasionally a corner will land because you've started here, and not a corner, but a seam will land on your corner.
Uh-huh.
And it just is extra bulk that you have to deal with.
Okay.
Okay, now I'm going to turn this inside out, or right side out. And I'm going to start in a corner. I got it folded this side over, and I'm going to fold this one over. So now I have my miter right here.
Mm-hmm. I'm
going to move my needle position. I'm going to take it back to 3.5. So now I've moved it over 1/8 of an inch. That means when I sew here, it's going to come right along the edge of the seam to the back.
Okay.
Now this is the trick. You got to hold all of this down and get it underneath your foot. But once you've done that, then what I do is I needle down. I have not moved the position of this. This is still at the same 3/8 scamp, but because I've moved my needle over, it's going to go alongside. Oh, now I just fold it over. You can use clips or pins or whatever suits you to come to bring this down. I usually just fold it over as I go. I don't go very far. And that is all there is to it. I'm going to stop. But that has put the seam right here on this side and right along the edge in the ditch on the back side. And so that is how you do it. And black is not the best for showing you these things.
No, it's not. But I'm going to try to zoom in as much as I can. Okay, try to show us those seams.
Here is the seam on the top.
Okay.
And then on the back, you can't hardly see it because it's in the ditch.
Oh, yeah. That's awesome.
Which is what you want. You want to not be able to see it. Now,
right.
What I'm going to do real quick is show you this corner again.
Okay. Because the corners are the hard part. So let's get a couple different illustrations of the corners so you know it's not just luck. And Mom, when you're changing your needle position, you're moving that needle to the left or to the right?
To the left. The back side, I move to the right.
Yeah, so illustrate again how to do a corner on the top.
Okay, so I'm going to go to this next corner. Fortunately, this is a small project, so it won't take me long to get there. And see, it's kind of like you don't have to think about it. It automatically makes it the right width. This fence keeps it from going off. Before I did this just with my fingers, and I'd never make a nice even spot on the back. This here I like so much better.
And that just goes to show you, you've been doing this a long time and you're still finding new tools.
That's for sure. Okay, I'm getting close to the corner. So what I'm going to do is fold it over, make my 45, fold it up, and then just hold it. Now, if you had clips, you could clip pretty close. But the thing is, this is going to go underneath this foot. So you have to kind of hold it. It starts going under. And then sew. I'm going to put needle down. Sew until you get to where that crosses. And then with the needle down, lift your foot, pivot, and now you're going to your straightaway on the next side. It's just that simple. Really is not hard at all.
This may be a good time to use a stiletto if you have one.
Yes, or even if you don't have one, a seam ripper or just something to kind of hold that down until the needle gets into that going in the opposite direction.
Okay.
And that's that. Any questions?
This out so we can see Debbie's lovely face.
So I can get a quilt done rather quickly with this. And like I said, I love the finish because you just really can't see that seam on the back side.
And hand binding is beautiful, but sometimes you want machine binding. Like if you have it for a baby quilt, that's going to be washed and tugged a lot.
Right. Or if you're in a hurry, because hand binding takes time, whereas this you can get done maybe in an hour, where a quilt might take you 4 or 5 hours to hand bind.
So Kathy asks, when attaching the binding, after you fold the binding at the corner and remove the machine to make them miter, do you start stitching at the very edge or a 1/4 of an inch in?
At the very edge.
Okay. And then Lisa asks, please review why you are changing the needle position.
If I didn't change the needle position, this seam would be exactly where it was joined to start with, where it was applied down, and that gives you extra bulk. Moving the position just a little bit makes it to where it goes beside it and be more in the ditch than on the binding in the back.
So if you didn't move your needle, you'd be stitching on top of where you stitched it on the back.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Yeah, Lisa says it takes her on average 6 hours to hand bind a queen quilt.
Right, and whereas this would take you maybe an hour and a half.
Sure.
So it's really a time saver.
So this would be great to do like on a table runner or something small to kind of practice it, get your bearings, and then you're off to...
Right, and Martelli does have some YouTubes out there if you need to review. Of course, you can always watch this again. We're always out there, so if you need to review, that's helpful. But anyway, that's how I do it.
Awesome. What else do we have to tell our friends?
I don't know. I'm obviously not comfortable doing this.
You're doing great.
I'll get better. Hopefully, we'll have me on a little more often.
Oh, Pam says she used a decorative stitch on the top. How could you incorporate a decorative stitch?
You could incorporate a decorative stitch by putting a regular foot on, taking this off. Or there is enough room in this hole to do some. You would just have to play with your stitch width to make sure that there's enough room in the hole to do it. This would be better to use this foot with a decorative stitch as long as it's not too wide, because you've got that fence that keeps everything nice and straight.
Sure. Cindy asked, if you can't change needle position, can you adjust the foot?
Yes, you can. That you could do easily. And that's just move it. It goes from a quarter of an inch out to a full inch. So you've got plenty of room to adjust the foot.
Great. I did want to mention to our friends just a sort of save the date. We have planned on the books to have the Handy Quilter van here at our shop in July. So we're going to have another van event.
That's a hands-on 4-day event. It's 2 classes. It's 2 different sets of classes. Would be like, I believe it's a Wednesday, Thursday, or a Friday, Saturday. I'm not sure. I think that's what it is.
Yeah, it's the 22nd through the 25th.
And it's you have one machine per person. You can do all of your practicing on a machine. You get your hands on it for 2 full days. It's a great way if you're even just remotely thinking about buying a machine. It's a great way to try it out. Or if you've recently got a machine and you want to learn new things, because there's lots to learn in this class.
Yeah, and just like many of our other events, we'll have a national educator come in, and this event will actually be held at the Hampton Inn here in town. So you will be in person, but it will be very spacious. You won't be on top of anybody. If you have COVID concerns, everyone will be required to wear masks and be distant.
And there's plenty of hand sanitizer, and they have little covers for the handles on the machines so that you can change them out. So,
and we'll provide lunch, and it's yummy lunch.
Yes, that's for sure.
Okay, great. I think that's everything that we needed to tell everybody. So I think we're going to go get ready to open up the shop and see everybody who's going to come by and visit us today.
Yeah, that's what we're going to do. So if you're wanting something to do on this crazy rainy day, come by the shop and pick up stuff for a project.
Yes, absolutely. We have binding tools in stock. We have the feed in stock. So get in touch with us or check our website if you need either of those. And if you have any questions, feel free to comment along here. We follow the comments. So we'll get back to you if you have something you're watching on the rerun.
Okay, well, thanks a lot and have a good day. We'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.